What if I told you that in the 1930s, the United States government launched a project to record the stories of formerly enslaved people? But many of those stories were quietly rewritten before the public ever saw them. Thousands of people who survived slavery were interviewed. Their memories were recorded. But the way those stories were published would shape how generations of Americans understood slavery. In 1935, during the Great Depression, the U.S. government launched a program called the Federal Writers Project. It was part of Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. The goal was simple: give unemployed writers jobs documenting American life and history. But one part of the project would become incredibly important: interviewing the last surviving people who had lived through slavery. Across the South, writers traveled from town to town, searching for elderly Black Americans who had been born into slavery before the Civil War. Many of them were in their 80s or 90s. For the first time, the government began collecting their memories. More than 2,300 formerly enslaved people were interviewed. They described beatings, forced labor, family separations, and the daily realities of life under slavery. These interviews became known as the slave narratives. But there was a problem. Most of the interviewers were white. Many were from the same Southern communities where slavery and segregation had shaped daily life. And many of the people being interviewed were still living in areas controlled by white authorities. That meant many formerly enslaved people had to be careful about what they said. Some softened their words. Others avoided criticizing slave owners directly. Fear still existed, even decades after slavery had ended. When the interviews were written down and published, some accounts were edited. Dialect was exaggerated. Stories were shortened. And in some cases, the most brutal descriptions of slavery were removed or softened. The result was a collection of narratives that historians today still study carefully. Because hidden within them are real memories of slavery, but also signs of how those memories were shaped by the people recording them. Despite these problems, the Federal Writers Project preserved something incredibly valuable. Without those interviews, the voices of thousands of people who lived through slavery might have been lost forever. Today, historians revisit these narratives to better understand both the experiences of enslaved people and the way history itself can be shaped by those who record it. The 1935 slave narratives remind us of something important. History is not just about what happened. It is also about who gets to tell the story and how that story is written. And if you want to continue exploring the truths, stories, and forgotten chapters of history, subscribe to Blackout History.